Welcome, everybody. My name is Jeff Winchell. I'm an academic and industry relations manager with Aspen Dental Management. I've been enrolled here for 7.5 years. And prior to that, I was an office manager. Didn't know if you knew that, Dr. Sharma. And I'm really happy and pleased to host tonight's Aspen Dental Ask Me Anything. And the goal of tonight is for you, the audience attendees, to drive content with questions. So there is a Q&A button that you will be able to see, and this goes very smoothly if you start asking what questions you want to hear about. And we have 2 or 3 questions already coming in, and we'll go there. So first and foremost, before I send it over to Dr. Sharma, I just want to say a few things about Aspen Dental at large in general. Aspen Dental is a dental service organization. We're knocking on 22 years now as an organization, and we've grown tremendously. Aspen Dental was a few offices in the Northeast to start, in Syracuse, Buffalo, Western New York, Northern New York, and then New England. It took a while to get to our first 100 offices, but then we kind of exploded. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we've really added about 50 to 80 offices a year, and we're knocking on 900's door right now. We are a DSO. We're similar in a lot of ways to other DSOs, but we also have our differences as well. I'll just highlight a few differences. First and foremost, we open up all of our offices brand new. We don't purchase any offices and refurbish them in any way. We open up every single office, brand new, brick and mortar, brand new patient base, etc. Secondly, in about 12 years ago now, they devised the practice ownership program, which at that point gave our dentists the opportunity to fulfill their dream and own their own practice. So it's one of the few DSOs which we allow our dentists to actually purchase and own and operate their own practices. Another pretty big difference is that we're branded. Every one of our 900 offices in our 45 states right now, it operates under the brand name of Aspen Dental. And that does a lot of things for our offices, including name recognition, and really helps us recruit for patients, for the doctors. And I could say from personal experience, and I'm going to have Dr. Sharma kind of introduce herself at length and then talk to her experiences. But I can say that over the last 5 years, we've been making it a point to make sure that we are supporting our younger dentists more and more. We're upgrading our technologies, our community outreach programs. We're updating our offices, updating their mentorship programs, our CE, etc. So in the last 5 years, I think that really made it a lot easier for younger dentists to transition into Aspen Dental. So there's obviously some other things that make us unique and special. And one thing that I hope Dr. Sharma will touch on a little bit this evening is the culture at Aspen Dental is something that really can't be duplicated. Okay, so that's a little bit about Aspen Dental. And now I'm going to allow Dr. Natila Sharma to go ahead and give herself a nice long introduction, starting wherever she wants and finishing where up to date. So without further ado, Dr. Sharma. I'm mute again.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amitala Sharma. I'm popularly known as Dr. Sharma in the company. I started with Aspen Dental. I'll be actually 7 years now. Exactly yesterday was 7 years. I graduated from University of California, San Francisco back in 2013. Aspen Dental was my first job. I started as a managing clinical director in a small town in Illinois, and kind of worked my way up through. Now I live in Chicago. I'm in downtown Chicago, and I have been a practice owner for almost about 3 years now. And I'm actually on the path to open a second practice in a couple weeks from now in the Chicago market. One of the things that I always say that I have loved and preached about Aspen is the biggest support network. Some things that we do not realize as students, and especially being in dental school, how much of a brand and brand reputation is important when you start practicing. So having a big name to back you up is one of the most important reasons for the success for the dentist and as well as for the practices. There's a huge network. There is a very strong relationship between the doctors in the company, whether they are owners, whether they are MCDs or they are associate doctors. We all kind of work together to basically just support each other and grow together. I think I'll stop on my intro there and I can kind of go more because, I mean, I could kind of go on the length about talking myself, but that's not about what it is about. So,
So Dr. Sharma, I have a question.
Okay.
You got out of your practice late, but you actually ended your day a little early to join us tonight, right?
Yes, I did.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for doing that. I know it's really important to make sure your patients are seen, but I also know you have tremendous pride in what you do and sharing your knowledge. And secondly, congratulations on your anniversary.
Oh, thank you. I know. I just realized it yesterday and I was like, wow, this is September. This is when I started. So yeah, it's been a great ride. Time flies really fast.
So the first question I want to kind of address, you addressed it, sort of, and it was basically, where did you start with Aspen Dental? Where are you now? And what made you choose Aspen Dental? This is a three-part question out of the gate.
Okay. So, just like everybody graduating from dental school, I honestly was just looking for a job. I just wanted to find a place where I could, technically just, hone my skills and get better at what I do at and, just gain some more experience. I think the hardest thing is, when you're getting out of school, you're actually not envisioning a long-term goal. You are pretty much envisioning a very short-term goal. I had lived both on East Coast and West Coast, so I kind of decided I'm going to move to Midwest, and an opportunity with Aspen Dental came my way. I always relate this to why did I pick Aspen Dental, because I was interviewing with a lot of DSOs at that time, and I knew I was going to work with a dental service organization because graduating from California market, people do not want to hire fresh graduates. It's very hard. So I knew that I had to get absorbed into a bigger network and kind of grow my way up there. I interviewed in a lot of other DSOs, and I think the biggest thing that was actually one of the make or break decision was for me was the how warm and how welcoming the Aspen Dental environment was for me. I think the biggest part as a student is when someone makes you feel valued. It is not like a business transaction where you're just interviewing and someone's offering you a job. It was more about your skills are very important. We respect you and we would love to work for you. So that welcome and that, the feel that I got was just way better than I got from anyone else. And it kind of made me feel like, okay, there's a stronger network. I think these people know better about what they are doing, how they are going to support, especially when you're getting out on your own by yourself. And, there's a lot more you have to learn and grow. I think that was where it started. Danville, Illinois. I started in a very smaller practice and it was hard. In the beginning, it was hard. I mean, life is very different when you are in school, when you get 3.5 hours to do a comprehensive oral exam, but it's not like that when you start practicing. Your first day of practice, you walk into, people are addressing you as the doctor and you're responsible for everything that happens. You run the show. And I think slowly and steadily, I started, getting better at what I was doing. I was learning from my own mistakes and I was growing. I had a constant support from different sources within the company. And I was able to grow really well, really fast, and kind of get to a point where I'm an eager person. I love competition and I love to grow. And I just approached about growth opportunities and was very well supported for my next transitions to becoming a practice owner, to being where I wanted to be. And that's how the journey kind of progressed.
So there's a few questions, but this was a follow-up question to what you just answered, Dr. Sharma. This person who's wants to know, when did you realize that you were going to stay at Aspen Dental long term? Because the perception is that most DSOs are short-term stays.
Yeah, so that's actually, honestly, that is the perception, especially in dental school. That is the perception. But I think I have a story that I share about what was my turning point, where I was, sometimes you have to ask yourself what exactly you're looking for. And younger minds and fresh minds are always looking for opportunities and kind of moving here and there. But I think I was at a point where I was kind of growing really well and I was achieving a lot of things, but I also wasn't sure if this is the right fit for me. Is this what I want to do? A part of me wanted to move back to California. But I was actually honored to be invited to one of the leadership events that Aspen hosts, one of the Vibe sessions back in the days. Actually, that was the first Vibe session that we hosted in Santa Monica, California. And I think that was a big turning point for me because this was a women leadership event and I actually met some of the most successful practice owners in the company and I heard their stories and I kind of connected with them and I actually realized that I wasn't looking at the right picture. I was just looking at I'm working and I wasn't looking at how can I develop myself and grow myself to be the next best version of me. And I think listening to all these stories and actually meeting these women who've been working for 15, 20 years and are now practice owners for 10 practices and have such a successful career and actually have transitioned more from practicing to now being the mentor and coach and just supporting growing their practices is kind of what my long-term goal became. And I realized that this is where I fit in and this will be what I want to do long-term too.
Yeah, I remember that Vibe session. I sent 5 students to join you all. I didn't go. I didn't get to make it. Very
Yeah, I think.
So that leads me to ask, you kind of got your, that was your turning point going to a Vibe session. Talk about the Aspen Dental. That's a good time to talk about the Aspen Dental culture in whole and how that's sort of developed over the years.
Yeah. So, and we are something which is, I always believe, is an ever growing and ever evolving company, and we've learned so much and we've come so far in the last couple of years. But I think something that resonates very strongly with all the Aspen Dental employees and doctors is the yes culture. We are a yes company. We believe in yes for whether it's a patient care, whether it's access to care, whether it's making things work for doctors, supporting doctors. I think we do run by the motto of yes to patient care, So I think the bigger our network is, it basically gives everybody an opportunity to find that one thing that actually relates really strongly to them. We are all about, breaking down the barriers. We're all about making sure that we don't realize this as much when we are in school, how much hard it is to be out in the dental world when pretty much every day of your practice is going to go like some patients saying they hate going to the dentist. They've had trauma of their past experiences, whether it's financial barriers or stuff. And I think what we as a company are passionate about is turning that around, turning that vision of dentistry being not a good place to be, a dental office not being a good place to be. I think all our offices are built on that culture, that we're going to change that notion. We work together, our teams work together to make sure that patients are welcomed and patients enjoy and they come in and they are able to have the access to the care, which they actually have not been able to for lots of reasons for lots of time. And that's I think the most strong thing that I feel as a culture. As I said, whether it's from a patient care point of view or is it from a doctor support point of view, there's always constant growth to take everybody to their next level.
Awesome. Thank you. So this is from a 2021 graduate. So they graduate in May.
Okay.
what advice do you have for somebody that is foreign trained, that's completing their U.S. education, and when should they start applying for jobs?
So I think, times have changed. Job markets are different, especially this year has been a railroad about lots of things. Pandemic has opened our eyes to a lot of things. So I personally would definitely suggest to be proactive about it. I think third year is something where I think it's a good time to start looking into things because the honest truth is that the job market starts getting harder, and the closer you are getting to your graduation, you might not be able to get something where you want to be at. So the earlier you start, the more flexibility that you have, because you kind of have the ability to be talking about some areas that you can be in, where you want to practice, where you want to move. I mean, the biggest factor, we have 800 offices. So there is so much opportunity in all different, most of the different states, I should say, that it's just good to be proactive, because there's a lot that comes in between this, to kind of make sure at least one of the things that you will not have to worry about when you graduate is finding a job, because I was in that position and it wasn't fun story.
Right. And I'll add to that too, Dr. Sharma. I've been in recruiting now for 7 years. I can tell you two things, to the audience is A, we've already hired close to 2021 grads already. So 20 total, 2021 grads, and we're not stopping. So although we do hire a lot of doctors and we do hire younger dentists, the earlier you can get those connections and those network, appear on somebody's radar and then in their network, the better you're going to be. No matter if you're, advanced standing, IDP, traditional student, non-traditional student, it doesn't really matter. The job market really doesn't, separate them. The job market is what it is. So the earlier, the better. So what advice do you have for somebody that is pretty much going to be in one place long term? So they're living in Massachusetts now, and they want to stay in and around that area. I think it kind of goes to the last question. That's why I asked that one yet next.
Yeah, I think the good part is always just kind of first figuring out where you want to be and building those connections. And it's a long-term commitment, so it all depends on you. If you want to stay in an area which you think is going to be your long-term goal, as we talked about, the opportunities start from starting as an associate dentist to becoming a managing clinical director to even going to a partner level. There's a lot that is offered if you know that this is the right fit for you and this is the right place for you. We are always very supportive of people who have long-term commitment and who want to be with us, so we want to make sure that we are providing that environment for support. But of course, that's where being proactive about it and kind of building those connections and networks is very important, because the truth here is also the market is very competitive, and lots of times when you're getting out of school, younger grads always want to live in a city, and those positions are very hard to grab. Like, because I live in Chicago, it's everybody that I interview always wants to practice and get into the practice which is right in the city. So that's why there's a lot of competition to even get those positions. So building a good network is very, very important.
Yeah, and I think whether you're flexible or mobile and where you're going to live, to Dr. Sharma's point, it's always good to get in the Aspen doors, so to speak, by accepting a position maybe in Western New York, and then if Boston might be your eventual destination, then you have an inside track on those jobs transferring within the organization, as opposed to walking straight into a lead dentist or position, something like that in the metropolitan areas, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I'll add to that there's so many doctors who've had those stories. Like I mean, when I started, I didn't want to be where I was, but that was the opportunity and I was open to it. And I mean, I feel fortunate that I was able to move my way up to exactly where I wanted to be. And I know there's so many doctors who've started in different parts of the country and then they have transitioned to somewhere else where another opportunity is opening up, because we are growing so fast that the market is changing and new opportunities come up. And so if you have your foot into the door, you might be able to have access to a lot of opportunities that other people might not know about before getting into it.
Yeah, and then, there was a follow-up question. How easy is it to transfer from one office to another, like Western New York to Boston? And I'll just say on that, Dr. Sharma, that, you're more likely to get an internal transfer to a more sought-after, job with Aspen Dental as a dentist than if you're coming straight in.
Yep.
So is it easy to go to the metropolitan areas? Well, there's more competition, so you have to earn that job. But to put yourself in a better position, you may want to start in Danville to get to Chicago, right?
Right.
Right.
Right. Absolutely.
So, Sharma, so there's a couple other questions here that I want to get to. And one of them is kind of going back to your past. Did you ever consider specializing? And how did you go through that process if you did? And do you have any advice for anybody that's planning on considering specializing?
So no, actually, I never considered specializing. I consider myself as a specialist already by this time, but no, I'm just jokes apart. I think so. I was a foreign trained dentist as well, and I was pretty much 6 years into doing dental school. Huge debts when I graduated. So at my point, I wasn't looking into it. However, this is the only thing that I would say, that my first year of practicing, I probably learned more than I learned in 6-7 years in dental school. That's how fast the growth is. I've learned it my way. I've grown my way. And I actually am at a point where I pretty much do everything that I could have done being a specialist. I do implants. I do all complicated surgeries. I do, my practice is very big on Invisalign. So I have covered every bits and pieces of dentistry that I love. I have an endodontist, I have an oral surgeon, I have all the specialties that do come to my office too. And I think that's your calling at the end of the day. I know lots of times when you're graduating, everybody feels like maybe this is, if you have a strong calling for something, that's a separate path. But I personally am a very strong believer of what you can learn by practicing in general dentistry in the long run helps you a lot. So I think you just have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to gain the confidence and you have to just grow yourself in that direction.
Any advice for a student that's considering doing a GPR or AEGD as opposed to going out there and just practicing in a private practice or DSO or community health center?
Again, I think this does come down to a very personal choice. If you do feel that every dental school is also very different. If you feel like, especially with this year being not having too much access to clinicals and stuff, and you think that you're not very confident, and that 1 year is going to definitely add a lot to your skill, I think that's a personal choice. I would say that you could consider working in an Aspen Dental office under the guidance of another owner or a managing clinical director. To me, it's pretty equivalent of an AGD or a GPR, because we do pretty much train you to do everything. The doctors that train in my office, there are days when I'm literally standing behind them and making sure that they feel comfortable and they feel confident about what they are doing. I always tell my doctors that I want them to step out of their comfort zone, and I want them to try if there's something that they are willing to. There's a surgical extraction that they want to try and they haven't been able to, because at the end of the day, I'm there to take them out of it if they get stuck. I'm there to help them out. I'm there to guide them and coach them. And that's the best way to learn in all reality. Until you do it, you'll never actually get the best out of it.
Right. So on that, staying on that kind of subject for a moment, Dr. Sharma, what does the first 3 to 6 months first month, first 3 months and 6 months look like for an associate in your office?
So we actually have a very dedicated program for a mentorship, is what we call this as the mentorship program for every new graduate, not even a graduate, every new person, doctor that we hire. And it's kind of structured as the first 4 weeks, you basically are shadowing. Most of the times you're working with a practice owner, or you're working with a very well-established managing clinical director, depending on wherever the location you're going to. And in those first 4 weeks, you are kind of taking a feel of how everything is going to be. You're learning our system, you're learning how the office flow works, you're watching how your doctor works, and you're just kind of picking their brain and working with them. Within those 4 weeks, some of those days you will be taking on a few things and you'll be working on a few things. And as you feel comfortable, we start growing into the next levels where you start working, you start having your own schedule, start taking care of patients at your own speed, and then kind of growing towards it. Couple months into it, we do something called as an EDGE program, which again, now things are different. Lots of things are happening virtual, but we used to have these doctors go in for a 1-week training in our headquarters, now actually in Chicago. So they would go in and they would talk to this clinical support directors and kind of learn a lot more insights of how, the whole process works and what is the next thing that they could learn and grow on. And then after that, it's your own transition. I've had associates who have become MCDs in a year. I have some people who need longer time. So it just comes down to how fast you want to grow and how we feel that you should grow. So it's kind of a two-way process. We want to be supportive about your growth and your dreams, as well as your clinical skills and your patient skills and all that stuff.
Doc, this one is might hit home a little bit. So the question almost verbatim is, how does Aspen Dental, which you can only really speak for yourself, obviously, feel about foreign trained dentists that also completed U.S. dental school? Would they be considered new grads even though they have several years of practice?
So the answer to that is yes or no. I think experience definitely matters, but I mean, and again, every country is different and every country education is different. But I personally can tell you this, that, I was definitely a lot more confident than other people who were interviewing along with me at the time. However, I didn't have any dental experience of US patient care, right? So I had some back home experience. I had done a lot more work. I felt a lot more confident about doing extractions. At the same time, education and standards and clinical care is very different in different countries, so that's one of the reasons that there are these programs for foreign trained dentists, is because we want them to learn and actually adapt to how the healthcare system works here. What are the standards that have to be maintained? So yes, you would always be considered as somebody who has relatively a lot more experience. However, the reason we still want you to start as an associate dentist is because we want to set up, a smoother transition for you. Because believe it or not, there are a lot of responsibilities that are added as a managing clinical director, and it's sometimes not very easy when you are getting used to it. Like, even if you are a foreign trained dentist, you've still been working for the last 2 years when you are going to school, where every step of the way is being checked. You're used to working things at that speed, so it's more about you gaining more confidence of working on your own, versus working while somebody's constantly watching you and correcting you and telling you what to do. And this is the biggest transition, where you're like, okay, I'm on my own and I'm going to take care of patients. And I just need to make sure that I grow in this direction, because patients are not going to like you spending 2 hours to do one filling, right? That's not how real life works, because when patients come into the practices, They are on a time crunch. They're coming at their lunchtime. They're coming after work. They have some place to be. So they want to be in and out. And we want it to be efficient and effective and never at the care of compromising the patient care. So basically just kind of transitioning to be more confident and more experienced is what the goal is.
Yeah, and it's pretty fair to say that in general, whether you're hired as an associate or an MCD, you'll get to where you want to be by proving yourself. And, you know, I can say that you're more likely to be promoted or transferred to an MCD position as a promotion if you prove yourself, and it can happen really, really quickly. So,
Absolutely.
you know, there's a rumor going around, Dr. Sharma, that you wear high heels in the office still. Is that true?
Well, not anymore.
Oh, all right.
I mean, I walked into heels my first day of practicing, and for the longest time I did it. But I think pandemic changed a few things for me.
Okay.
I've recently started wearing scrubs, which I didn't do it for the longest time, but I'm too lazy to put my clothes in hot water every day. So that's been a transition. And I mean, some days I walk a lot and I don't get to sit. So heels were getting harder and I'm getting older. So
Well, I kind of asked the question because there's a couple of questions on COVID. Just touch on, you know, how things have changed in the office for the patient and for the staff.
So definitely a lot. You know, I still am a very firm believer of that, you know, no matter how big, you know, this whole thing was about, oh my God, dentistry is not safe. Oh my God, dentists are not safe. Hygienists are not safe. But I personally very strongly believe that we, from the very beginning, have been trained to deal with any kind of communicable diseases. We follow the health history and we do all that. I think the things that we have added on is definitely an extra layer of protection. We do temperature checks. We do, you know, COVID screening for every patient. We're making sure that we are spending more time in between the patients. We have kind of slowed down a few things in terms of how many people can be there in the office. The staff has an extra layer of protection. So I think going back to that point does definitely add one more thing that I would want to mention here. As I said, that the pandemic was a learning lesson in a lot of directions. And one of the most important things was the support that we had with Aspen Dental when we were going through, especially in the midst of a pandemic. I have a lot of friends who work in private practices. And, you know, everybody was like, there was a day, March 16, everything was just shut down. And everybody was like, this has never happened in our world. What to do? What to do? There were so many unanswered questions, but we were amazed at how fast and how big of a support that we got. We were the first to secure every kind of PPE, even when my friends were struggling. Like I know people who didn't open their practices for 3 months in a row because they couldn't secure PPE. We were the first ones to get that. We were the ones to get access to every kind of funding and loan that existed because we have such a strong team and network of lawyers and support and financial people who were on their game to actually get all this taken care of for us. So most of our practices actually stayed open, even though state mandates had us doing only emergencies. But we were open. Our doors were open because there were people out there who needed care. There were people out there who were in pain, who needed to be taken care. And it was amazing how much people were appreciating the fact that we were open and we were taking care of that. Like people would come in and say every day, oh my God, you're risking your life, but you're here. And we would say, we're here because that's what our job is. So I know that so many people, so many dentists struggle to do this. There are dentists who have not been able to open their doors back because when you're on your own, 3 months of not having any revenue could actually put you out of job. That's
Right.
how hard this market is.
Doc, and the follow-up to that is how has it affected the patient flow into the office? How has it changed? Has it morphed a little bit even after COVID?
So surprisingly, you know, we actually were expecting that things would ramp up relatively slower. People are still scared of going out, but there is so much need out there. People have been stuck at home. People want to get these things taken care of. So the demand is actually has been really good, amazingly good. What measures we are taking in our level is just kind of phasing out things a little longer. We want to have enough time between patients to clean up our room, sanitize everything, make sure everything is taken care of. So I would say relatively a little bit slower, but at the same time, we're pretty busy. We just kind of make sure that, there's nobody in the waiting rooms. We don't allow anybody or friends or family with the patient. We make sure we check the temperature and the patient goes. So we're minimizing any kind of patient to patient exposure, making sure we kind of follow all our protocols in between patients.
Awesome. I'll add a little bit to that as well. I mean, I actually had a long conversation with one of the construction people that actually, build the buildings and, do the specs and all that stuff. And we're a little bit behind on new office opening, but it's not because of the demand. It's not because of the state of dentistry. It's not because we've fallen off. We're going full steam ahead. It's just because building materials, are a little bit behind, and some of the bureaucracies are a little bit behind. But just to brag a little bit about the health of Aspen Dental in general, we're still moving ahead, and any offices that were scheduled to open that have to get delayed are absolutely going to be continued to open, even if it's in 2021. Next year, we're still planning to open around 80 offices plus. We're still hiring dentists, hygienists, dental assistants, etc., at a very, very high rate. And another thing to brag upon is we've made good on almost every single offer that we made to dentists before the COVID. Almost every single offer, those dentists are now starting, and we're continuing to hire. So it just speaks to the health of the organization, and some of the preparations they had made during COVID has really made the doctor's life easier. So that's just kind of something that I wanted to add to that as well.
Yeah.
So that answered like 3 or 4 of those questions. Okay, so I want to get there now. I want to get to a few of these because they just came in all together. What kind of education and support from both the clinical and non-clinical can a new dentist and a dentist that's been there for a while have ongoing training?
So actually, that's a really good question, and there's a lot of answers that I can give you on that. So number one, we do have a constant clinical support page that we have internally, where there are tons of CEs that are always ongoing. Some of them are live webinars, some of them are just recorded CEs. And you have access to it 24/7. So you can actually be home, log on to aspendentallearning.com, and you can kind of take some courses. That's one part of it. The second part of it is we do internally run initiatives. So 2018, if I'm not wrong, 2018 is when we launched a company-wide Invisalign initiative. And at that time, when we launch initiatives like that, every single office is actually trained. So we trained our doctors, we trained our teams, and we did a huge launch on Invisalign in our offices, which we were not doing before. Fast forward 2020, it's been one of very successful initiatives. Our practices are growing really fast, and doctors have learned so much in orthodontic knowledge, which you all probably would agree is the least that you learn in a dental school. Right now, we are in the middle of an implant initiative that we are running where now things have been a little different this year because a lot of these courses that we used to run were in-person courses where we would fly you into wherever our practice support is, or the team would just come into a local market and everybody would get together and we would hold these courses, which we can't do anymore. So a lot of that transition is happening right now where the courses are being changed to completely online. So we have this implant initiative that's working on right now where you're learning restorative part of it. And this is for everyone, somebody who has zero knowledge of implant world to somebody who does a lot of implants. Then we have a phase 2 surgical course coming up. So there's always something on the internal side that keeps happening. Besides that, on your own, if you are somebody that, you're like, hey doc, I want to learn the C, I want to go learn BioClear, I want to do this, and you approach your owner doctor and you're like, hey, can I go and register for the CE? We are very supportive about that. We want to make sure you have the time available to do that. You have, as long as it's well ahead of time. You can't be like, I'm going to go and take a CE tomorrow kind of thing, because, we have patients to take care of too. But we always want to make sure that you can get that. And other than that, we also used to do a quarterly CE about something or the other. So there are Cs that we run for endo, there are Cs that we run for implants and oral surgery, bone grafting, name it or not. There's a lot that happens in terms of continuing education.
Awesome. So there's two questions here. One, I know is near and dear to your heart, and that is community outreach. Can you talk about, I would actually talk about your experience with Haiti. Where'd you go?
Haiti. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, talk about that, and then we have a fantastic follow-up question for you.
So I think one of the home runs for me with Aspen Dental was the community outreach, and it's very, very close to my heart. I've grown up in a third world country. I know what demand is and what the need is. So we run a lot of community outreach programs, and some of them range from, actually most of them are most of them are international programs. So we've been to Haiti, we've been to Jamaica, we've been to I can't probably think names of, but every year, actually there were 3 or 4 every year that were happening. And there's a huge team that goes, which includes doctors and dental assistants and hygienists, and everybody gets an opportunity to go. I was personally fortunate enough to do it twice, and I went to Haiti both times. And hands down, it's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. We take everything, we donate everything, and we just go in and take care of these people. Whatever comes our way. We even actually take a lab tech with us, and we were on site building dentures for them. So it's amazing, because we go to these areas where these people don't even ever think about going to the dentist. They're suffering in pain, and there's no way they can be taken care of. Besides that, we also are very passionate about giving back and taking care of our vets. So actually every year we run something called as Day of Service, which is a day in June where we actually open all our practices, and it's focused towards our vets, but it's a day of service, and we do everything for free. Whatever comes through our door, we take care of that. And I could be wrong on the number, but it's millions and millions of dentistry that's donated on that day. So giving back is very passionate for all of us, including the management side, and then the doctors and owners. And we want to keep continuing it, and we will keep continuing it. Of course, no travel right now, so that makes it different, but we are very positive that once things settle down and borders open up, that we will be able to go back on that track.
I kind of spaced there. Did you mention the mouthmobile?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're good.
And besides that, the third thing that we also have, we actually have a mouthmobile. So it's a mobile dentistry. We actually built it, and it has 3 ups inside it, and actually travels twice a year, coast to coast, and makes multiple stops. And same thing, wherever we stop, the doctors and the teams around that area come and volunteer, and we do take care of dentistry for free for patients. So that's also, we do 2 rounds of it, and we go all over the country.
I'm an anonymous attendee. I heard that Dr. Sharma is a pretty amazing dancer. Is this true? Question mark. I don't know.
Seriously?
I don't know. Maybe you're famous.
Maybe I am. I don't know. I thought I was keeping my hidden skills. It all depends. What dance floor are we talking about? But I mean, I love, and again, one of the things that we are people who work hard and play hard. So we all get together once a year. We have our annual retreat, and we go crazy. That's how I'll stop it.
Yeah, you can stop there. I'll say this. Aspen is a dancing culture altogether, and Dr. Sharma is always leading on the dance floor.
No, we like to have fun. We enjoy a lot. As I said, we all work really hard, but we love to party, and we make sure that every year when we get together, we celebrate with each other. It's amazing. So this is what I call as my family, because whenever I get to see all these people, we travel, we spend 3-4 days together. And I think, even when I'm interviewing people, these are the couple of things that I do always say were personally very important to me. I didn't want to be a dentist who was by herself, going into practice, coming home every day. I wanted to be in a network. I wanted to be where I can interact with people. I can talk to people. So, it gives me everything besides just being a clinician that I always wanted to do, because it's hard. Dentistry is hard. It's very taxing on your brain, and it's important that you have a life outside it. It starts getting harder when you are on your own. So having a support network, talking to all your fellow dentists and owners and getting their advice, and even on cases, like I have so many doctors that I reach out to if I ever have a question about a case, and I take their opinion, and I'm like, oh, what would you want to do about it? So it's just, it's my family. This is what I call my fam, which I get to see and party hard with.
Nice. So there's a couple questions, but I'm going to kind of combine them into two. Dr. Sharma, your video may have went out, but
I'm sorry. Yep.
no, you're good. I didn't know if it was a technology problem. So speaking of technology problem, what is in the offices as far as technologies that help you keep up with sort of the gold standard of dentistry, I guess, that they're asking, something like that?
Sure. So we pretty much keep ourselves apprised on all the new technology changes that we come in. So our latest thing was actually adding iTero. We have the iTero in every office, and we do digital scanning. We scan our crowns, we scan for Invisalign, we scan for every kind of removable appliance. And then we have like practices. Now it's a standard of care. The practices do also have a CBCT. So all my implant surgeries, I do use my CBCT. I actually do guided surgeries. So we have another company that we partner with where we have the software to make the guides and do that. So pretty much everything. And then my endodontist uses the CBCT as well. She travels with her microscope. So everything that we need on technology front, we always have those.
Okay. Two-part question here. I guess I'll ask this question. So you hit on it. They're asking about what specialist does Aspen Dental hire, and how does that work with the offices?
So majorly two, oral surgery and endodontist. Those are the two main specialists we hire. Oral surgery, mainly two benefits if you are practicing, and if you're in an office where you don't place implants, so you have the oral surgeon to help you out with that, or the biggest being sedation. A lot of people don't want to be awake while they're getting their wisdom teeth extracted, or even some complicated extractions, medically compromised patients that you would not feel comfortable working with. You have an oral surgeon that you can communicate. Most of these specialists would be actually coming into your office once or twice, depending on what the need of the office is. And then, of course, endodontist. No offense to anyone, I hate endo. I can't do it. I don't do it. So I give all my endo to I give all of my endo to my endodontist. But we have everything in the offices if we need to take care of the patients and do the root canals. But I have the support of doing it. It's much more of a peace of mind for me. My specialist comes in, she's relatively 5 times faster than I am in doing a root canal. So patient's happy, you're happy. It's a win-win.
Cool. All right. And talk a little bit about your relationship. Do you have a lab technician in your office?
Yes.
And how does that work, and how does it help you?
A lot of ways. Having a lab tech is life. So every dental office in Aspen has an on-site lab where we do pretty much majority of our removable pros, including the dentures and immediate partials and whatever we're talking about. I think you guys probably, in schools, you're used to sending a case out, waiting 2 weeks, waiting for your faculty. It probably starts from finish, could take you months to even fabricate a denture. That's not how real life works, right? some days I have a patient coming in and says, hey, I need a denture by tomorrow. We have the ability to make that happen. We'll block our lab scheduler. We have a lab tech on site. I can bring my lab tech. Patients are very specific. This is what I want. This is what doesn't look good. So any questions that a patient has, I can bring in my lab tech, communicate right away and tell her or him, this is what I want and this is how it should be. So it's constantly something that you are checking and you're getting back right away. And you are able to change things around, like something you set up teeth and patients like, oh, I don't like the shape of these teeth. And you have the ability to take it back to your lab, have the lab tech quickly change the front six and show them if this is what they like. So it's a blessing, because if I had to send this out for another lab to do it and pay every time and send it and patient had to wait, I probably have most of the people would not even get it done.
Awesome. Well, look, we only have about 5 minutes left. The questions are pretty much all answered at this point. Why don't you take a minute to give advice, any closing thoughts, and if any other questions come in the interim, I'll let you answer those.
Okay. I think my last couple of things that I do always talk about, graduating from a dental school, you guys have already worked hard and you are where you are. You have done a lot to be there and do a lot of things. So it's important to think about these decisions. It's important to be open-minded about where you're going to be. There is a lot of perception about dental service organizations. People like to use the term corporate dentistry, which I hate. There's a lot of different perceptions about it. Your teachers might talk to you, but I think this is your decision. At the end of the day, you should discover where you want to be, what you want to do. I have always very strongly felt that when you are working with a patient, this is your dentistry. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in an Aspen Dental office or you're sitting in a private office. It is you who decide how you're going to take care of your patients. So if you have that confidence and you have that skill, nothing ever is going to change how you work with patients. So please keep an open mind about the fact that there are so many benefits of working with a larger organization. Some of them that you don't even think about. Some of them that you don't even know about. It's hard being out there on your own. I have a lot of friends who work in private practices, and we all started together. And I have definitely seen my growth pattern and their growth pattern, and it's been very different. And a lot of them actually come back and tell me that now they wish that they would have opted this route. And it's an important decision that you make when you're getting out of school. Don't think about it as a short-term thing that I'm going to just, I did it. So that's why I'm telling you from experience that I'm just going to do it, get out of it and go somewhere else. Find what your calling is, work towards it, and be proactive towards it, because the market is hard. Dentistry is hard, and it's important to have support and someone to help you and guide you when you get out of school.
Well, you're in Chicago, right now?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, you have friends in Syracuse that want to say hi. However, in 3 words or less, what do you look for in hiring new graduates?
3 words or less? Seriously?
Yeah, just characteristics.
You got to be a rock star.
Of course.
Confident.
Confidence.
And personality.
And personality. It's wonderful. And that goes to culture, right?
Yes.
So your friends at Syracuse miss you and they want to say hi. Do you have 30 seconds?
Absolutely.
All right. Come on over, guys.
Hi. Oh my God. Who all is here? Hey. Hello. What's up? I miss you guys.
For you.
I miss you guys. When are you guys coming to Chicago?
Whenever New York State says we're allowed.
Whenever they let us.
The news is you're allowed now.
We'll take your word for that, all right?
And congrats.
Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's good to see you.
All right. Good to see you guys. Hopefully we can hang out soon.
Thanks, guys. All right, I'll just conclude this. We have a minute left. And first and foremost, I want to say thank you, Dr. Sharma, for rushing home out of your office and spending some time with us. I know that our attendees really, really appreciated it. I appreciated it. They're going to be wanting to ask for your contact information. So
Absolutely.
I will gladly pass that along. If anybody has any follow-up questions, anybody on, still you'll be receiving an email from me.
Sure.
You'll have my contact information as well if you have any questions for me. So
Absolutely. I mean, I'll be more than happy to answer if you guys have any questions. Good luck to everyone, the ones who are graduating, the ones who are getting ready for it. And, you know, we, as I said, we are a strong community. Even if you are not a part of Aspen Dental or you don't, we still can always help you out, and we will always be there to answer your questions. So that's where I will end it on.
awesome. I don't know. I think I hear everybody giving you a round of applause, but I can't.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much,
well,
Jeff.
here. Thank you all very much for attending. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Dr. Sharma, thanks again. I appreciate you and miss you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Jeff. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.